So here we are again, and just as a heads up, this video is the culmination of 4 different videos that I released on Patreon at the $5 level, where we go over it in a tutorial sense. This won't be a tutorial. It'll be kind of an overview of the process and my thought process, I guess, and that kind of stuff. If you're interested, the Patreon link is in the description, and you can get a ton more information on dioramas and plenty more to come. I'm actually finished all of my Transformer displays. I'm just kind of waiting to release them, periodically on Patreon, and then the overviews on the channel before I kind of show off the whole thing in its full form. So I'm pretty excited about that, but we got a ways to go because I think I got like 4 more lined up. But this is all sped up, either 400 or 800%, in order to make a video that's not obnoxiously, ridiculously long to listen to. So a lot of this stuff for me was been to find a variety of realistic environments. We've talked about this before on here, that I think that they tend to look better in more realistic environments, especially realistic environments that can showcase their scale and how big they're supposed to be. That being said, you don't want it all to be caverns, right? Because like the majority of the show takes place like in desert caverns. Whereas here, on the displays, if you just have a whole bunch of different guys, it's going to look monotonous and, boring. So the goal has been to find a number of different environments, right? So that's why we did the snow mountains for the Technobots, and, we have jungles coming, we have cities coming, we have this. So this is obviously a take on Carbamia from the 3rd season of Transformers, which of course, is not the most politically correct, and honestly, it wasn't even then, but let alone now. But I think I needed a place for Octane, and I really, truly think it's the most iconic setting for Octane. That episode with him and Trypticon, I believe, where they were like working for the guy that looked a lot like or was modeled after Gaddafi. So that's what this was kind of homaging was that scene. And my goal here was it was going to be a desert, but the palace also had some grass kind of courtyards and stuff, so it would have a little bit of a variety. So it wouldn't be just a plain desert. And then there was also like some plants and, because all of that would suggest that they had the money to kind of take care of all that stuff, right? So it is a palace after all. And then the palace itself would lend itself to show a bit of scale. So it was threefold, kind of like I got to pay homage to a very iconic episode, at least as far as season 3 goes, and as far as Octane goes. I was also able to have a location that, as of right now, the only character that I have set for that space is Octane. So that's another thing that I'm kind of constantly thinking about these days is what characters do I have left in terms of wanting to kind of check off my list, and also playing the odds of like what are the chances that they're really going to produce these figures, and then trying to create environments that will house those figures and give me a little bit of room to grow should the opportunity arise. Where they release figures that I wouldn't necessarily think they would release. And that's why we're setting up these tiers here, right? So there will eventually be a place for a number of different figures at varying different levels of height to kind of take up that vertical space and allow you to kind of see different bots, even if they're in the back or what have you. At the same time, be visually interesting enough where, for right now, it's just going to be Octane in there, and at least it won't look empty somehow. Even though it'll only have one figure in it, there'll be enough kind of going on with the diorama while simultaneously striking that balance to have a diorama that will allow for more figures to go in the future, right? And that's where it gets tricky. I'll be honest with you, the majority of this diorama was fairly simple to do, but that's why I think that they really make for nice tutorial videos on the Patreon, because the Transformer stuff specifically really lends itself oftentimes to like kind of like real fundamental, type skills, because none of this stuff has anything to do with talent. It's all technique. and technique can be learned. So that's kind of the beauty of this stuff, is that, you know, like a lot of this stuff that I do, I learned from just watching other videos or other people that I know that are making it. You know, I'm fortunate enough to be near Crashbox Customs, which is a pretty established diorama making entrepreneurship. So I have him as a resource, but also, you know, I have the internet as a resource. And like I said, like I don't have any natural born talent for this stuff. I just learned the skills and applied them, and then have tried to pass on the skills that I have, you know, learned along with those that I've developed. So the majority of the kind of skill set here that was more so new and slightly uncomfortable for me because of how new it was in regards to this castle. And I think it's funny because it's very easy to do stonework or brickwork and just sort of say, okay, I'm just going to go line by line. Here's this row of bricks. Here's this row of stone. Here's this row of stone. Here's this row of bricks, et cetera, et cetera. But I wanted this to seem a little bit larger than would allow me to really like cut with a knife to introduce brick and stonework, you know, where you had to groove it all out. I wanted it to appear larger. So I started looking at pictures, and I was like, man, a lot of times when buildings are so big and they're so in the distance, you don't necessarily always pick up on the exact, you know, location of every brick and every piece of stone. You kind of just see these little pockets where the light hits it just right, or the shadows fall on it just right to kind of show you that there is layers of brick and stone. So what I did here was, when I was doing a lot of detail work for the castle or the palace, was I just added little, like I just shaded and highlighted the palace itself, and then just added these little patches of line work to suggest that it was made of stone. And I actually think that it was pretty successful, like surprisingly so, because I didn't believe it was going to look good until the end. So that's what I'm doing here, is really just working on texture, and then at the very end I add like just a little bit of detail. And I mean, it's, you know, it's not going to win any awards, do you know what I mean? But it ended up, I think, looking pretty effective and not distractingly bad, I guess, is the way that I would put it, because that's the goal, right? Like I'm not Rembrandt, you know what I mean? So I just don't want anything that I do to look so awful that it distracts you from looking at the transformers on it. I just want you to kind of accept the environment that it's in, you know? And that was pretty much the end of this one. So I'm going to show the real live view of what I said and my thoughts when I saw it for the first time, and you guys can take a look at that now. And there it is, the little Carbamia Palace, and I don't know. I think it's fine. I think when you have a couple figures in here to fill it out, it'll look a lot better. But I don't really have those quite yet. I plan on putting my Runabout and Run Amok along with Octane, and then maybe some room for some extra randos here and there. But yeah, I mean, I think that the castle or the palace ended up turning out pretty nice, surprisingly, and the jungle stuff kind of helps sell it. I think it's what's doing it for this one. And there it is for now. We need some figures, man. But, you know, if nothing else, it does look pretty good with him in it. Like, and I feel like if you don't, you know, if you didn't remember the episode or whatever, I feel like this would help jog the memory a bit. Maybe I'm off there, but I don't know. I don't hate it. It'll do. I'm happy with it. I'm getting happier with it the more I look at it. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time.